Run.
Get a test shot of Joe and myself, and Joel and myself in here. There we go. Oh, geez.
Let's take the bag. Is the bag necessary for the meeting?
I got George's radio in there. Okay, we're getting ready for the Cooper Lake Amateur Radio Association monthly meeting of February 13th, 2019. Officers present are Joel, our secretary, KC2 VAW, and myself. You're an old guy.
Yeah, KC.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm KC2 YTD, president of KLARA. Our treasurer is not here tonight, and Joel is going to fill that in for that report. And the meeting will begin shortly. Just let me know when you're ready. Got 50 minutes from the last meeting. Put those back in here.
Anybody need minutes from last time? I do have a couple of printed copies here if you need them. Review the head motions. This means yes. This means no.
I read it at home. It looks
Okay.
good to me.
Okay.
Good.
Looks good.
We gotta make this work good, right? Gotta have the right sound effect.
I said, good evening, please stand by, and please say hi when you come on.
You just said it. Yeah, okay. Good.
I typed it too.
Yeah. Good.
Very good set.
It is?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Let's all rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A moment of silence. Let's have an extra minute of silence for Dick Walters. K2 RDW. Thank you. Okay. Welcome to the Cooper Lake Amateur Radio Association's monthly meeting. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we'll approve the minutes here officially. Can I have a motion that the minutes from the last meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, that was Glenda and Jerry Lynn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Okay, I guess the first thing to do is to go over our treasurer's report, and Joel is filling in for Ruth. Go ahead, Joel, with that.
Okay. Operating account balance on 1/19 of 19 was $2,865.40. Deposits were $60. We took in one new member for 3 years, which is $60. Disbursements were none. Operating balance as of 2/13/19 is $2,925.40. The memorial account balance stays at $500 for the last month. I do expect that will go up for the month of February. You have the report from the treasurer in front of you. How do you wish to proceed?
Have a motion to accept that is,
I so move to accept the treasurer's report.
I'll have a second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Who seconded, Dave?
Anybody? I did.
Yeah.
Okay, committee reports. First committee report is from the webmaster. Hi, that's me.
You
Just
forgot
been
the
up-
introduction.
Pardon?
You forgot the introduction.
The introduction.
We thought we were all knew each other because it was so small.
Well, yeah, we're okay. We're okay, Belinda. All right. And again, as last time, it's fairly quiet as far as the website work. Updating the membership. We just recently, as reported by the treasurer, obtained another member who paid for 3 years of membership. Trying to remember his name right now, and I can't think of it. Well, okay.
David Ashman.
It's Ashman. I know it's on Ashman. Yeah. Yeah.
He's
And-
from pretty far down in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, from Pennsylvania. Yeah. All right. And the 2-meter simplex challenge is posted now up on the website if you haven't already seen it. We posted up the other day the zip codes that are contained in thereabouts approximately that are on the map that's on that site. And the rules and are all up there too, in PDF, and the map's a PDF up there also. Okay. If we could get somebody to respond from YouTube, if they could let us know if they're hearing me okay, that would be great if you could. Okay.
Rick says that everything looks good and the volume is okay.
Good. Thank you, Rick. That was W2RMT and Alman. Thank you, Rick. Rick,
Come on in.
we have another attendee.
Hi,
Okay.
Tim, how are you?
Okay. Under repeater report, we have received the lightning protection devices and the and extra gas tubes for that units that were ordered. We ordered 3 and it cost $75. Harold N2FMS received them the other day, and we'll get those installed as soon as possible. 1 at the Arkport site, 2 at the Arkport site, and 1 at the Bath site. The Bath site doesn't have one on the link radio antenna, so that's the lightning protection for that. Other than that, just a matter of getting around to doing that and getting it done before the lightning shows up again.
It'll be a little bit before you can get into Jasper.
And it'll, right, and as far as Jasper, we've got Jasper taken care of pretty much there.
Okay, good.
Okay, so on to that. As far as reports, anything to report on education? Yes, Belinda?
Englewood, Florida says hi.
Well, hi, Englewood, Florida. I bet that's somebody we know. John and Sue, maybe?
Tell them to please chat. They
I'm
need
sorry?
to chat. John, chat. You
Yeah.
need, John, if you can hear me, I know you can, so get on the chat part and chat.
That's what you're asking them to do?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because he sent a message.
On the right side of the screen, there's a place you can click for chat. Okay. All right. And as far as education is concerned, where was we?
How did we make out at Keshequa?
Okay, Keshequa, we were going to do BE testing, and that was postponed, scheduled for Tuesday, and with the weather, inclement weather, we weren't able to do it. The superintendent of the school put the kibosh on it late in the day, considering they were going to cancel after hours
Okay.
transportation and that type of thing. So we've moved it to, we think it's going to be on March 5th, Tuesday. Okay, and we won't have one of the VEs that have volunteered, N2FMS, Harold. He's going to be going on a trip and will be gone until April. So I got in touch with Belinda, and Belinda KD2 BPJ, and she's volunteered to do one of the VEs, and it'll be myself and Rick, W2RMT, at this point. If you would like to attend it, it's usually we have to be there about in Keswick Central School about 2:30, and it will start at 3 at the Nunde High School. If you have any interest in participating as a VE, and I don't see only but one VE here that I know of. Okay, good. All right.
I have messages for you from Nancy
Okay.
in regards Winterfest. She is not here tonight, but she is still intending to participate on the 23rd as a VE.
Good.
She
Good.
will be there.
Good. Yes. Again, the
She's-
KLARA VE team will be. It's good to know. We'll be doing the Winter Ham Fest at Big Flats at the Legion the last Saturday in February. February 23rd.
Mhm.
Okay. Old business. The club still needs an inventory clerk. And is anybody given this any more thought as to whether they would want to participate in being an inventory clerk? That would be, what would come with that is training for using Google apps and just keeping track of our inventory. If anybody's interested, please contact me in the future. All right, still waiting to fill that position. It's a new position that we're trying to do to maintain a better means of record keeping. Okay?
I can call you out by name if I have to. Come on, somebody put their hand in the air.
So it's a record-keeping position, it's not a position of taking care of stuff.
No, right, that's correct. It's just the responsibility of making sure that when new equipment is purchased, the model information, date purchased, amount, and serial number and information is put on that spreadsheet for our inventory that's already there.
We have to make sure that our inventory is current so that our insurance stays in force. They need to know what we own and where it is.
Right.
That's the big thing.
We just recently purchased 10 both-hang radios to give away to technicians who pass the test and become a member in a period of a membership meeting. That kind of thing, you would want inventory, even though the box is in my basement. Somebody would, would say, "Hey, Gare, I need the serial numbers off those. We want to keep a record of where they go. Not that we want them back, but they are in our possession. At least 9 of them now are."
So not only do you need to track what you buy, but you have to delete when you give things away.
Right, when we give things away, right? And maybe even
Or retire things or sell them as surplus.
Absolutely. Or they go up in gray, blue, or black smoke. Okay.
That will never happen.
Never do
No.
that. Right. Right. So that's what the position entails. And it's just basically speaks basic computer skills and knowing how to use a browser, learning the Google apps.
Think it over. We're not gonna let this fall off the table. We're gonna keep asking about
We're
this
gonna get somebody.
until somebody puts their hand up. Think it
I'm
over.
sort of new at the club here, but
Yes,
I'd like to help somehow, maybe I'll do that.
yeah,
You know, talk
okay,
later, see what's going on.
okay, we got a
I mean,
maybe.
I already know computer stuff.
We got a maybe from, and your name and
Bob
call sign?
McCarthy. Bob McCarthy,
Okay, Bob MacArthur, call sign,
KD2MGE.
KD2MZE. Okay, great. That would be good. All right. Well, we can talk about the winter field day now, which we had 2 stations here at the Civil Defense Center. We had a digital station and we had a single sideband station for phone. And I'm going to be kind of guessing at these numbers. I meant to do that earlier to get those numbers together for you. But I think Joel can help me out here. We did the other day at the board meeting, and I'm thinking it was 80 something.
84 sticks in my mind.
84 digital contacts that we got from the winter field day contest. And for digital, and for phone, I think it was 30,
I think we had 29.
29.
We
29.
were really pushing to try to make 30 and couldn't quite
Kept duping.
make it happen.
Yeah, we kept getting the duplicates. Yeah, but the digital went rather well. And we installed 2 antennas, of course, 2 stations. And the digital station was, its antenna was an unfed with a newly, I'm trying to think of the word now. unfed box that I built, okay?
Yeah, no.
Anana. And thank you.
Yeah.
All right. And that worked out very well. We ran the wire from all the way here to the top of the tower. And that wire now is in a big coil, not a neat one, in a cardboard box in my basement. And I got something else to do.
It was wicked cold that day.
It was cold that day. So, yeah. So that was, I thought, for our first time, and it was rather somewhat successful. We had a few people show and that. And
Most importantly, I think most of the people who were here had fun.
yeah.
We had a good time. There was a lot of laughing and talking and joking and whatnot.
And learned a
going on.
lot.
Yeah.
And I got my first RF burn. For those out there that don't know
Me
what
too.
an RF burn is, did you get one too? Oh, you did. I got mine on the pinky.
Yeah, I'm gonna make you.
Yeah, that's because the guy that put my antenna up didn't put the ground radio up yet. And so I got a little RF burn off the side of my tuner.
You'd be working right along, and this is your mouse, and you'd be going like this, and the next thing you know, you'd hit that, and it'd go zip, and you'd go darn, and you'd move your hand back over. And about the 5th time, you'd have thought I learned.
I must be stupid because it was a gradual burn for me. I was just, what is
You
this?
smell something burning?
For the single sideband station, we put up a pretty good size inverted L antenna with a radial field at the bottom of it. It worked very efficiently on 40 and 80. I could tune it on 20. It wasn't terribly efficient.
We had some noise issues, and I can't see that, Belinda. It's too far away. But our producer here is talking to me. Just sorry. Our technical advisor.
You have Noel in Ocala,
Oh.
John and Sue in Englewood, Florida, Debbie and Don on the road traveling.
Okay. Let us know if you heard that, because I don't know how well the microphone's picking up from behind. If it came over the stream.
I do I do have another question for you.
For me, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you wish to handle the people that are viewing the meeting virtually? Will we list them on the minutes as present? Or do you want to put a second line down below for present in the virtual sense?
Well, I would just say that if they're on chat, uh, we'll duly record that from the chat. Make sure you have your call sign there so we know for sure who we are.
Okay,
If you don't have a call sign, that's fine. At least we'll know. And Belinda has a question. Go ahead.
Rick says, I think it should be separate so we can keep track.
Yes. Should be
Okay.
separate.
okay, but you would like the people that are attending the meeting in the virtual sense documented in some way?
Yes.
Okay.
But in chat, you have to put your call sign and sign in.
Mhm. Can you give me a list of those folks at the end of the meeting, please?
Yep.
Okay.
And if you haven't already done so, please check off on the checkoff page up front. And I'll remind you one more time that the checkoff page is double-sided. If you don't find your name on the front, flip it over, and there's more on the back. If you still don't find your name, write it in as a guest and bring it to my attention that it's not in the checkoff space at the top. I really live and die on that checkoff sheet. I don't try to scribble everybody's name down while I'm taking minutes. Sorry,
Okay. No.
you're up.
That's fine. That's fine. Yes,
Elliot
We have
is on also, but he hasn't figured out how to get on chat.
upper right-hand corner area. Okay. This is kind of it's a little bit new business. We may have mentioned this at the last meeting, lightly. Jamboree on the air. This year, we're going to try to do better in communications and try to provide stations for the Jamboree on the air, which is scheduled for the
October 18th to the 20th.
18th through the 20th, October 18th through the 20th. And KLARA will participate by providing stations for the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts to use and experience. We have to be careful how many we get in total because of the antenna issues and all that. But I think 4 would probably, or 5 would be really, any more than 4, I would say, would be bad, probably. We'd have digital, probably 1 digital station, and then maybe 3 bands covered by 3 different other radios, and that can move around amongst 3 to 4 stations. Just kind of keep it in the back of your mind, and we're going to be meeting with the people at the Howard Community Center, is where it's scheduled to be held. And we're going to be meeting with them at their monthly meeting, either in March or April. That hasn't been decided yet. And we hope to meet, hopefully, with Mariana Bennett and of course, Brian.
Brad.
Brad. Why do-
Myers.
Brad Myers. Why do I want to call you Brian?
Everybody calls me Brian.
They do? Really? Oh, okay. Okay, Brad. All right. I know how to remember it. That's the name of the dog on the Family Guy. Yeah. Okay. Don't take that to heart. Okay. So that's something to think about, that we're definitely going to be involved with. We are not going to put the club in any situation where we're liable. We are just volunteering to have the stations, and the scouts will do the rest. And we hope to, and Howard Community Center will do the rest. And hopefully that'll work out. It's a bad time of the year for KLARA because we've got so many other things, winding up. But it would be kind of a fun thing to do if you're interested to help scouts obtain their badges and whatnot, and see how that works out. I do want to mention this. I got this out of the next QST magazine. ARRL has formally announced their new podcast. It's going to be for new hams. Just what we've been always kind of looking for, something to help new hams. What do I do when I get my technician license? So for those who are just getting started on their journey in amateur radio, ARRL is launching a new podcast aimed at answering your questions as well as providing support and encouragement to help you get the most out of this hobby. The podcast, titled So Now What, will launch in early March, and new episodes will be posted every other week, alternating weeks with the ARRL, the Doctors In podcast. And the episodes will be available on Apple, iTunes, and Stitcher. So that's something to look forward to for the technicians, and we can offer that for them to get on there. All right. So topics to be discussed on there in the first several episodes include getting started, operating modes available to technician class licensees, VEC and licensing issues, the need to be aware of sunspot activity, mobile operating, contesting opportunities, amateur radio and pop culture, and some negative stereotypes of technician class license holders. Okay, and there's no other podcast that's like that covers this particular topic, so it'll be a first-time thing. So even for those that I'm excited about it, I'm probably going to be listening to it. I listen to the Doctors In every episode that they have, so that'd be cool. So that's coming up, and it's sponsored by LDG Electronics, is taking up the sponsorship for that, to promote ham radio to technicians. Yes, Belinda.
Rick says, does everybody know what a podcast is?
Does everybody know what a podcast is? For those that don't know what a podcast is, it's if you own a computer, iPhone, an Android phone, there are these things called podcast. And it's just, actually, it's kind of like YouTube here now, but it's pre-recorded and it's played at a certain time of the day or released, and you can listen to it at your leisure. And I'm not sure if that pretty much covers it, doesn't it? I think it's an app on there's an app called thank you. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I guess for now, does anybody have any more new business?
Yeah, we have one item.
Yes.
Belinda?
For the 2-meter challenge, did put an article in the KLARA newsletter that says the Cuco Lake Amateur Radio Association is hosting a 2-meter FM simplex challenge open to any licensed amateur operator. The object is to make as many contacts in many different zip code areas as possible in 5 hours. This will be held May 18th, 2019, beginning at 12 p.m. and ending at 5 p.m. local time. Everyone is encouraged to participate and submit their log regardless of how many contacts they have. This is intended as a fun contest to learn about using 2-meter FM simplex instead of repeaters, Echolink, or Digimodes. This year, we're limiting the area to be Steuben County and its immediate surroundings, with a goal to be enlarging it in the future. Let's have fun, share the frequencies, help each other, and learn together. For further information, such as the KLARA rules, the map of the area, suggested frequency, and exchange, please check out our website at www.clara.us. We would love to have you join in and let's have fun together. Rara is always looking for stuff that's going on in the various clubs, so that's what I sent to, I forgot his name.
Forrest Chick.
Yeah, Forrest, that's it.
The
Nice guy.
Rochester Amateur
So for-
Radio Association.
Yes, Rochester.
So that will be in their newsletter.
Yep.
And that's good. Thank you, Glenda. Good
The
job.
other thing I would like to do is they can hear you guys fine, they can hear me fine,
Yes,
but we need to know
yeah,
what else can be heard in the room.
okay.
Okay, so
So
would you do
I
the
was-
call signs around the room?
I was
or
going to avoid it, but we can. I
And that
had
would
second
tell
thoughts
us-
about it.
I would
Okay.
like reports from the people that are listening in to chat and tell me whether or not you're hearing someone say hi.
Okay, good. So we'll do a introduction here, and I'll start with myself, and we'll just go around the tables, and like we usually do in the beginning of the meeting. Okay, again, my name's Gary Stratton, KC2YTD. I'm from Dansville, New York. And go ahead.
I am Joel Fisk from Sonora, New York. My call sign is KC2VAW.
KE2YB, Jerry Lynn Baker from Mitchellville, Bath.
KD2GEB, Brian from Wallace.
KD2 BPJ Belinda from Wallace.
KB2 CZY, Donna from Sonora.
KD2 CZX, David from Bath.
Dave?
KD2 MZE, Bob McCarter of Alfred.
Whiskey 2 Juliet Tango Charlie, Jim Canine from Arkport.
KD2 OFF, Brad from Hornell.
WB2OLJ, George from Columbus.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay. Well, I guess, again, I'll ask again, is there any other new business? Are there any other questions you'd like to ask before we go on to our present ending the meeting, and any other questions? Go ahead, Belinda.
John Babbitt just said, great, we could hear everybody's introduction.
Great, good, super,
So that's good.
yes,
Thank you, everyone,
very
for
good.
helping with that.
All right, more
Just
applause, please.
Just had a question,
Yes,
probably old business.
yes, Jerry Lynn.
Are they still gonna put the antenna area in for us?
Oh,
Are
here?
they working on it?
Well,
or-
they have the pulley and the rope on the pole, on the telephone pole, and on the building here. And now it's just a matter of getting the bracket for the 2-meter antenna onto the building. And that's something that N2FMS has been working, Harold has been working on diligently. And he's trying to communicate, keep in contact with Timmy Marshall and with Fred in that regard. And so we're just in a little bit of a limbo right now.
We actually used the pulley at the end of the building for one leg of the inverted L. Worked really well. Or at least I thought it did.
Yeah.
And since you're the one that used it.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions from anybody else? Any other chat questions? Okay,
Everything's
if we don't
good.
have any questions or any more new business, I guess we'll ask for any motions to adjourn the meeting here.
I so move to adjourn.
Okay, we have that from Donna.
Second.
Anybody with a second?
Second.
Hey, there you go.
Who was that, Jim?
Jim.
WJT.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Woo-hoo. Okay, excellent. Well, I guess right now we're going to go on to our presentation that Joel is going to put on. And I'll let it take it from here at this point.
Thank you.
We'll have to move the banner in front of the screen there so that you can see the slides. So we'll just do that, and everybody just kind of stand by while we prepare for that. Thank you. Go ahead, Joe.
Okay. Now,
Rick suggests stopping the feed and starting another one for the presentation, but it's part of the meeting.
Oh, meeting was adjourned. This is just a presentation.
For the meeting.
I think we just continued.
Yeah.
Never mind, he said.
I wonder if it would mean, do people then have to relink in? If we
Yeah, we
stopped
can't do
it?
Yeah, they would have to relink in, yes.
So,
Okay, go ahead, Joe.
the other thing that I need to do with Belinda here before we get started with the presentation is that there are 1 or 2 slides here which I can't let you stream.
Okay, I could put my hand,
Yeah, yeah.
there we
And
go.
I'll let you know when they're coming up.
Oh, wow, there we go.
It's part of the presentation. I have the necessary permissions to show them as a part of a PowerPoint, but I never asked for permission to broadcast them. Okay? It's,
I get them, I can't see what it says.
you want me to move that? first
So-
computer up?
This computer, I think, has got to go that way.
Okay, hang on. Stand by, please.
And when I
Hope we don't
see-
make anybody sick here.
Actually, that wasn't too, oh, now it's bad.
Wait a second.
Yeah, I know. John Babbitt said he closed his eyes.
Yeah, close your eyes, John, when those lights come up. What'd Rick say? We may have to turn the lights down, that's all.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
you
will
will.
help. And how much lead do I have here? Can I move this over to the other table?
Oh, you can just slide this whole thing. What were you thinking of?
We're using the projector. If I slide it over, it's not gonna be centered on the screen.
Yeah, right.
No, it was okay. It wasn't
No,
in the
you're
way.
fine, you're fine.
It's in the way
You're fine.
now, but it wasn't before.
Oh, we're fine, I see. Oh, I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
Yeah, I wanted to take this out of the way.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe, if you
So
want to.
that's not in the.
We'll turn the lights on. We'll see how that goes.
You want more water?
They may not be able to see Joe, but who cares?
Yeah, I certainly don't.
No.
I'll be out of your way in just a second here.
We couldn't go to commercial.
How does that seem to be? Is that they give you a better
Screen
look
is
at
washed out.
Oh,
the,
it
better look at
is.
the screen?
Yeah, it's washed out. Turn the lights back on back there.
See,
Far back ones, Donna.
see the screen?
As you can realize, this is our first time doing this, so,
Need a
Okay.
better camera.
well, it's not that, it's the lighting. It's too
It's
bright.
like a glare.
It's too bright, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but they can hear the spiel anyway. Why don't we continue on? from
Now
there?
it's worse.
Can I get you to push that over just a little further?
Okay.
Beautiful, thank you. Okay. We had the weather service in this very room back in November, and they came in to do a flood skywarn training for us. Some of us do what?
He wants you so you're in the picture, I think.
Okay, some of us were here for that, but not many of us. Belinda, Brian, and I were here. I'm not sure whether anybody else was or not. Yes, no?
Me?
Yeah, George, Donna. One of the things that they talked about during that presentation were stream gauges. Well, stream gauges are something that I've been following for the last 25, 30 years. They kind of skimmed very lightly over the whole topic of water gauges in the stream. I thought I'd give you a little bit better look at the inside of that. And this will not be a real long presentation, I promise. It's going to be 15 minutes or so. Okay, so nationwide, we have something like 800 stream gauges. A lot of them are on the larger rivers and streams. But particularly in the Northeast, we have a fair number of stream gauges that are on the smaller streams, particularly where they add a lot of water to the main stem. And when we
Technical adjustment.
Actually, the bigger you get, the better it's getting.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I thought, Glenda.
when we get down to discussing individual gauges, you get a little bit better idea of what I'm talking about here. So if we look at New York, all of the dots that you see here, those are all, that's the location of all of our stream gauges. In addition to the stream gauges, there are also gauges on some of the lakes. That's a little different system. And some of the gauges are used for somewhat different purposes. For example, the stuff that's along Lake Ontario up here, the stuff that's along Lake Erie down here, that's used to look at the amount of water that's going into the two lakes. Helps us think about what the level of the lake is going to be like. How about this stuff down here? And this stuff over here? Anybody have an idea of what that is?
Some of it along the Hudson?
Some of it's beyond the Hudson. The stuff in this area is called the Catskill Delaware watershed, and the stuff down here is called the Croton watershed, and those two are where 99% of the water from our New York City originates. Okay? These stream gauges here and here have a lot less to do with being able to predict flooding and a lot more to predict with water yields for the city reservoirs. However, out here where we live, the purpose of the stream gauges is almost uniformly to predict flooding. And if we zoom in a little bit closer to home, Chemung, Steuben, Allegheny, Livingston, Ontario, Yates, Schuyler. Density of stream gauges is very high compared to the rest of the country and the rest of the state. Why? Probably because we have a lot of catastrophic flooding.
What's the difference between the green dots and the clear ones?
Okay. All of these are ranked by how much water is in the gauge at the time. If I remember right, I downloaded this part of the picture on the 24th of January. So the stuff that's in blue is close to the 90th percentile level for that particular day. In other words, on that date, there was a lot of water in the gauge. The ones that are open have not been in place for very long. We have no way to gauge what's actually normal there because they've only been in place for 15 years or so. we don't have a long enough time period to understand exactly what the stream is doing. Okay? This is what we have in place currently for flood control infrastructure. You can see right here in our backyard, we have 2 dams and lakes, one in Almond and one in Arkport. We also have a number of flood control levees, which is what the round circles are. Just looking at Steuben County, Cohocton River, Canisteo River, Tioga River is here. In addition to the lakes and dams that are in New York, there are also 3 which are immediately across the border into Pennsylvania below us, which have huge impacts on our water levels in New York. Tioga, Hammond, and Cowanesque. Okay. Good so far? Yes, review the head motions.
Yes.
Yeah, this means yes. Good. Okay, now, we're all amateur radio operators. Why do we care what this is? Why do we care what this is all about? In my view, we're all emergency communicators, whether we want to admit it or not. We're all emergency communicators. It behooves us to take the opportunity to look at what the forecast conditions are, be that weather or water in the stream. The other reason is because the data transmission systems that are used for this are very close to what we use for satellite work in the amateur system. And by watching what USGS does, the Geological Survey does with data transmission, we might learn something. Or maybe we teach something to the government. You never know. It could go either way. I rather doubt the latter, but it could happen. Okay. There are a number of other reasons why we ought to pay attention to what's going on with flooding. And I'm gonna scare you a little bit. I'll show you some scary pictures. Anybody know where this building is?
Wellsville Hospital.
Yes, that is Jones Memorial Hospital in Wellsville. This is what they call the new wing. That was dedicated on Memorial Day in 1972, and by the 23rd of June, that was in the river. If you currently drive down 417 in Wellsville, you'll see the back of this building. And the new wing, by the way, was never rebuilt. You'll see that the new building, the hospital building, is flat on the back side. And as you're driving by 417, which is kind of located down here, you're looking at where the river is and where the hospital is and where the river is and where the hospital is, and you're going, nah, that didn't happen. But it did. It did. Moving along a little bit, but also in the Agnes flood, these are some pictures from down in the Wyoming Valley, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre area. This is something that happened during the flood that people don't talk about very much. This is 40 Fort Cemetery, which is right on the outskirts of Wilkes-Barre, right next to the river. River took away about half of the cemetery. The really gruesome part about this was that cemetery is old enough that not a lot of the bodies had been interred in concrete vaults. So when I say they went away, they went away. The other story, which people don't talk about much, yeah. The other story people don't talk about much is this whole situation here. The building on the left here was what was called the Grand Hotel. That was a residence hotel. Okay, there were people that were living in there full time. That was their residence. Okay, water starts to come up. They give people the word to get out of there. Well, these people didn't have any place to go. They weren't real thrilled about moving. So they were kind of taking their time. You can see the last of them coming to this motorboat here. And by the way, that's Main Street in Wilkes-Barre. It goes by the front of that. You see here where it says United Penn Bank? Yeah, that's on a feature called Public Square. There's a square right in the middle of town, just like Pulteney Square in the middle of Bath. A little bit bigger, but they're just getting the last of the people out of here. Unfortunately, there were some things that happened there, or should have happened, that didn't. The person that owned that building, by the time they realized they should have done this, there was too much water to do it. They really should have gone down in the basement and pulled the fuse block. They didn't. Consequently, they had huge problems with shorting inside the building. This is from the other side of the block 2 days later. The Grand Hotel is currently on fire. There's so much water in town that they can't get to it with any fire equipment. And pretty much that whole block burned right to the water line. So consequences of flooding that you do not think about. These guys in the suits here in the boat, there wasn't any FEMA at the time, okay? I believe those guys worked for Housing and Urban Development, HUD. The story gets told that they showed up in town and wanted to see the flood damage. So they put them in that aluminum skiff with an outboard motor on the back, and they didn't go much more than about 150 yards when they decided they'd seen all the damage that they really needed to see. You can see that the guy in the front there has got an absolute death grip on the gunnel of the skiff. Moving to a little bit more local. I don't know how many of you remember this. This was in January of 1996. This is on the Canisteo River. The school bus that was right here came from the school in Canisteo. They knew that this is on, you can see that there's a traffic sign there. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's on 119. That's on County Road 119, the River Road. That goes from Addison up to Canisteo. Okay. Canisteo school closed early that day. They knew they were going to have problems with high water. They didn't close quite early enough. The person that was driving the bus here was on 119 when the water started to come up. She kept trying to go that last 100 yards, and she got about here, discovered that there was a culvert there that had washed out. She drove right into the hole that the culvert was in. Couldn't go forward, couldn't back up. Water's coming up. She jumped right on the radio and called the school bus garage. School bus garage calls the central dispatch center over here, and as luck would have it, the guys from the fire department at Canisteo, the fire department at Addison, and the fire department from Bath had finished swiftwater rescue training in October, right before this. And also, very fortunately, this was pretty near a brand new school bus. And the reason that I say it was very fortunate is that when it got to this point, which is just before they took the people off, when it got to that point, there were still 3 students, a teacher, and the bus driver on the bus. The reason it's fortunate that that was a pretty new bus is that it had an escape hatch in the roof. They got a boat next to the bus. They evacuated all the people, took them downstream just a little ways, and then they climbed the steep bank on this side of the river, where another foot of water was not likely to put them in danger again. And they were able to save themselves. Bus was a total loss. Even after they got the people off the bus, this is not really funny. Only in retrospect. After they evacuated everybody, they realized that the bus driver had left the bus running.
Oh.
And once the water came over the air intake for the engine, things came to pieces rather rapidly after that. You know, it's a funny thing. Water doesn't compress the same way air does. So that went downstream pretty quickly. I got one more scary picture that I'm going to show you. And I really apologize for the quality of the photo here. This was not flooding. This also happened down in the Canisteo Valley. This was on 119 in the area of Chapel Road. That's a lot better for the people in the room. I don't know what it does for the...
Washes it out
Yeah.
bad.
Well, we'll look at it, then we'll turn the light back on.
There we go.
There's 2 things that I want you to see here. Number 1 is the size of the debris pile here. That debris pile is about 14 feet tall. And number 2 is this right here. Anybody have an idea what that is?
Pipes.
Gas line?
Is it an excavator or something that buried?
Nope. That was a private automobile.
Oh.
Oh,
That was a little S10 Blazer that was sitting off to one side of the road. It had, something had gone wrong with it, and the owner just kind of abandoned it there. You know, it was raining real hard when this happened. He took off, and that, there again, that car was a total loss. You know, it was buried in 14 feet of gravel. The other thing that you don't see from this photo is that on the left side of this picture is what's called the Southern Tier Line, which is a main freight line for Norfolk Southern Railroad. It also took out about 300 yards of the rail line.
Mm-hmm.
One of the folks that lives down there attempted to call the Norfolk Southern Police Department. Norfolk Southern has their own railroad police. Said, hey, you've got a big problem here. You know, the line is blocked at thus and such a location. And they got a whole bunch of attitude from the from the police department. Finally, the guy said, yeah, well, okay, it's on you. But if I were you, I'd send I'd send a high rail down the line before you put a train on it, just to be sure. They did. They did. I could tell you a bunch of stories about this one, but I'll keep right on going. That's enough. That's enough scary pictures for tonight. Normally, when we talk about stream gauges, people get this kind of an idea right here. You see, there's like a ruler, which sits in the stream underneath the bridge. We don't really do it that way anymore. That's called a staff gauge. One of the problems with using a staff gauge like that is that you got to have somebody out there actually right on the stream bank, and he's kind of going, yeah, I think it's like 6.74 maybe. The other thing that you get if you've got any flow here is that it's not too unusual for the water to form what are called standing waves. And if you get one of those in front of a staff gauge, you don't get much of anything. So we don't really use these much anymore. I'll tell you the story behind this one, and I probably ought to move this along a little bit so we can all get home, but I'll tell you the story behind this one. The guys that were the contractor that was building this bridge, there's a fella down here that's got a pretty good sized open hayfield. Contractor wanted to use that hayfield to park his equipment in. Goes to talk to the farmer. Guy says, we might be able to work something out. He says, I've always thought there ought to be a gauge underneath that bridge there so that I could keep track of what the creek was doing. And the contractor said, I can make that happen. So the contractor got a spot to park his equipment, and the farmer got a gauge that he could watch so he could see what the stream was doing. However, we don't do it that way anymore. Some 25 years ago or so, we started to move to automated gauges. These two gauge houses are right here in Steuben County. The one on the left is right at the end of Wood Road Bridge in Campbell. Donna can tell you anything you want to know about that location. She worked a milepost there for the Wine Glass Marathon for 6 or 7 years. That was the first place she ever operated amateur radio on her own. And the other one is on County Route 119 down in West Cameron, and we've had an adventure or two down there. This is about 100 yards from where I almost whacked a bear that weighed about 400 pounds with my Jeep Liberty. And I want to tell you, if he hadn't been doing his part, I would have had it right there.
Oh, look, the bear.
Yeah. This is another good one for you to look at. This is on Mulholland Road down in the town of Irwin. You can see this is a little different scale. This one's on the Tioga River, which is a much larger body of water than the other two. And the other thing to see here, see that pickup in the background there? It's red. It's got a little different looking fiberglass kind of cap on the back of it. That belongs to U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It's stationed in Hornell. If you buy any of these stream gauges and you see that truck sitting around, stop and talk to the people that are there for a few minutes. They're happy to talk to you. They want you to know what they're doing. Probably what they are doing is making measurements in the river to calibrate the gauge from. They're checking the readings on the gauge with what's actually in the stream to make sure the two line up. Okay. The next two images we're going to need to block.
Okay, it's blocked.
Now I can already hear what you're thinking with those gauge houses, long way from the river. How does that work? Well, it works just like that. You can see in all of those pictures that there's a fairly large concrete block structure underneath the gauge house itself. That operates as what's called a stilling well. The stilling well portion of it is here. There is an intake, actually in most cases several intakes from the river into the stilling well itself. And then in the upper portion of the gauge house, there is a recorder, stuff that's been recently rebuilt, probably has a bank of fairly large lead acid batteries and a solar cell on the roof to keep the batteries charged. The other thing you'll find very interesting is right here, and that's the antenna that provides the satellite uplink. For those of us that are down here in the southern tier, almost all of the gauges have been retrofitted to use to do satellite telemetry. So that's a good look at the way the gauge works. Now, how about data transmission? Okay, there's the gauge house, there's the antenna. Data from the stream gauge moves to what's called the GOES satellite. GOES is a geostationary satellite that's located on the equator. It orbits the Earth at the same rate that the Earth turns on its axis. The satellite itself is not actually stationary, but there's no relative movement. Okay, the satellite orbits at the same rate that the Earth rotates. So it's stored on the GOES satellite, and then it comes down to the Command and Data Acquisition Center on Wallops Island in Virginia. Now I know that there are some campers in the room. Anybody been down to Chincoteague Island? Yeah? If you've been on Chincoteague, you've been right on top of the Command and Data Acquisition Center. It's located at Wallops Island. Wallops Island is the northeastern spaceport. In addition to being where the data comes back down from GOES, it's also the northeastern spaceport. They do a lot of rocket launches and whatnot there. Fascinating place to visit if you've never been there. Really, really, really worthwhile. From the Command and Data Acquisition, it goes back up to what's called a DOMSAT, a domestic satellite. The DOMSATs are not geostationary. There's a group of either 12 or 24. I forget exactly what the number is at this point. Bounces off the DOMSAT and comes back down to a server farm which hosts the National Water Information System. And you're gonna love this because the acronym that they use for this is right here. And the people in the business call that MWIZ. MWIZ. Okay. Now.
Can I
Okay.
show?
Yeah, you can go ahead and open that up again. At this point, if I had been able to connect to Wi-Fi, I would have done a short live demonstration for you with the water information systems. But that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. The web links are right there. I'm going to leave that up for a little bit. If it's of interest to you, go ahead and write that down. Make sure you get a look at it when you get home, either tonight or sometime tomorrow. I think you'll find that this is a pretty fascinating. Did everybody get that?
No.
I'll go back. Okay.
Please go back.
Okay. I think you'll find that this is quite fascinating. There are two links there, one for New York, one for Pennsylvania. The distribution of points in terms of where the stream gauges are for Pennsylvania is very different than ours is. There are a lot of stream gauges in the Pittsburgh and Philadelphia areas, immediately to our south. Not so many. There's a fair number of gauges around the Tioga Hamlet Dam, but once you get away from that, they really don't have that much. And the reason that I had Melinda block the graphic where we talked about data transmission is when I talked to the people from USGS, they give me permission to use that graphic one time in a PowerPoint presentation. I did not ask for their permission to broadcast this on YouTube. I didn't realize we were going to have that this evening, or I would have tried to put that together ahead of time. By the time I found out about it, it was 1:30, 2 o'clock this afternoon. Didn't really have enough time. Okay, that's kind of the quick and dirty stuff about stream gauges. Now, there's a whole lot more to that, and I do mean a whole lot more. And if there is info, I'd be happy to do another 20 minutes to show you what some of that stuff is. I think it would be better if we waited just a little while before we did that. This is the kind of stuff where if I give you too much at one time, you're familiar with the term MEGO, MEGO. It's an acronym. It stands for My Eyes Glaze Over. I mean, there's only so much of this that I can give you and have you take it in. And now it's your turn. Questions, comments, random thoughts? Yes, no, maybe so?
I see one of those little houses in Hornell.
Yes.
It's got one of those spirally antennas sticking off it. I looked it up. I found it on NOAA somewhere through that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking, and you could see a big graph. I did a graph of a couple months, and you could see the rain and when it changed.
Yep.
But there, it was like suddenly up here and then suddenly down there, and I was like, what's funny with right below the dam?
Yeah.
So that,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
An aha moment when I was like, because the other place else on the Geneseo River, the rain comes up and then the river goes up and they all sort of, but that was straight like a square wave type of thing.
Yep.
That was a Yagi, right? Was I looking for that? Is that a Yagi?
Yes.
Something like it.
Yes. Yes. It was a Yagi antenna from the length of the antenna and from the length of the element in the antenna. I think it's probably working in the 420 megahertz range or thereabouts. And really you remember a couple of months ago, we did a presentation on the 70 centimeter band. I think this stuff is immediately below what would be our 70 centimeter band. The other question that I have heard from this, when we start talking about satellite transmission, is why do they put it on the GOES satellite first? Why don't they send it right to the domestic satellites? And if you stop and think about that, the answer to that is very self-evident. Because of the fact that GOES is geostationary, it's possible for them to calculate the azimuth and elevation from each gauge house prior to actually getting there. And it's very easy to set up the antenna. And you also do not have to track the satellite because of the fact that it's geostationary. It stays where you point the antenna. Make sense?
Mhm.
Okay, we done?
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming tonight.
So did you say goodbye to everybody on, or is it all?
I did.
You
I
did.